Hey everyone, welcome back with Benoit Mac, and today we're going to compare what is considered the best WCW game of all time and what fans consider to be the absolute worst wrestling game made, period. Today we're going to deep dive into the beloved WCW NWO Revenge and the hated WCW Backstage Assault. Like and subscribe to Benoit Mac if you're interested in more of these kind of videos every Aki Sunday. Now let's break it down. Alright, stat time. WCW NWO Revenge was developed first, being released in North America October 26th in 1998. Then, in Europe a month later on November 30th, 1998. It was made exclusively for the Nintendo 64 by the Aki Corporation and published by THQ. Total sales amount to around 2.38 million copies sold. WCW Backstage Assault was first released on PlayStation 1 in America on November 8th of 2000. Then, in Europe later that month on the 24th. The PSX version sold about 0.21 million. The Nintendo 64 version released December 12th of 2000 and sold 0.14 million copies. Yikes! Backstage Assault is brought to you by Electronic Arts. Starting off with the presentation, Revenge's intro starts out with a full minute of some truck driver going down the highway during a stormy night. Then he's stopped in his tracks by Sting, who appears out of nowhere, and we get the best line to any intro of a wrestling game, period. What? Then, the real intro starts and we see a presentation of the biggest groups and stars of World Championship Wrestling in 1998. It's action-packed and pumps you up while establishing what WCW was all about during its peak. The intro for WCW Backstage Assault is only available on the PS1 version. It's okay. Just a bunch of clips, but it sets up the premise of the game, I suppose. Revenge is unique in its presentation by having the same menu on each screen. However, it changes after each match depending on the arena you've chosen. In Assault, we return to the computer-type background from Mayhem, but even more bright and matrixy. This menu background persists for most menus in the game. It's cool. The roster select, though, is just kinda weird. They're in sections, but only 2 at a time show up, so it's kinda like a weird grid pattern. There's no rhyme or reason as to who is in what section. The music for Revenge is often considered the best in the franchise. The menu music is pretty energetic, the edit theme is okay, the match music is when things ramp up though. Each arena has a unique track that helps differentiate each stage even more. This is the only Aki title to do this, I believe. Starrcade lives on in the minds of all players as the greatest track to fight to in any wrestling game history. Assault doesn't have bad music, it honestly reminds me of SmackDown titles. Decent rock beats that pump you up, but for some reason, they're all really short on the menus. There is no match music in Assault, but there is commentary by Bobby Heenan and Tony Schiavone.
No! That could kill someone!
Wow, I hope that he remembers to replace that divot.
Scott Hall has turned this into a one-sided affair. Oh my goodness! Vertical suplex. Oh my, that's gotta hurt.
There's not much here, but they do talk much more often than previous games. Instead of just yelling the moves, they'll say some other things every now and then. Revenge doesn't have commentary. The arenas in Revenge are based off of 1997 and 1998 venues. There's WCW Monday Nitro, Sold Out, Super Brawl, Bash at the Beach, Halloween Havoc, and Starrcade. The stages look amazing during menus and entrances, but then turn into walls pretty much during the matches. Although it's cool you can throw foes into the backstage on Nitro and Super Brawl for a rebound attack. In Assault, we only have backstage areas, of course. There's the truck area, loading bay, the block, parking garage, media center, bathrooms, and locker rooms. All these areas are linked though, and you can travel from room to room each match and even discover extra rooms like the ladies' locker room, boiler room, tool shed, and more. The loading screen gives hints on everything you can do in these areas before matches, which is pretty cool. Finally, the entrances in both games are different. In Revenge, every wrestler shares the same two songs. They walk out on stage, pose with pyro, then walk into the ring and do their signature taunts. Not bad for the time, but most wish we got official themes. In Assault, we have essentially Titantron videos with the wrestlers' themes playing over it for about 15 seconds. Then, when the match starts, we see both men posing during their introductions, and then the match starts abruptly. Revenge's gameplay is everything a fan of the Aki games loves. You have weak and strong attacks. For example, for strikes, you tap B for a weak attack, hold B for a strong strike that may be easier to reverse. If you run at your opponent, you will do a weak strike. Run while picking a specific direction and you do a stronger running strike. The best examples of this involves grapples. Tap A to initiate weak grapples and hold A to apply a strong grapple. Then press A, B, or one of those buttons with either up or down. For weak moves, pressing an A button combination does an irreversible weak attack. Pressing B makes the move reversible, but it's still very difficult to do so. With strong grapples, these are your most powerful moves. Attempting one early on in the match will more than likely result in it being reversed, since you need to wear down your opponent's health and momentum first. The more you reverse and beat down a foe, the higher your momentum goes. If you take a beating, it'll drop until you reach the danger mode. But after this effect, you'll have a chance to come back due to your momentum returning to normal. Once your spirit is full, you can taunt to access the special status. Then, you strong grapple and flick the analog stick to use a finisher in front and back grapples. Or, if you want to be a cheeky bastard, press A and B together and you'll use your opponent's finisher. Some wrestlers even have Irish Whip Rebound and corner specials too. There's a special type of wrestler called hybrids. For guys like Goldberg, Yugi Nagata, Ultimo Dragon, they have strike combos that are activated by strong grapples and pressing B. Usually you get 6 strikes, but in the special state you get 10 strike attacks. Finally, in the special status for certain heavyweights, you can pull off a top rope move you otherwise couldn't. After each match, you get a score based on the quality of match and the variety of moves used. This is a feature Revenge fans love since it adds so much replayability trying to top your last match. Backstage Assault takes a different approach. You have 3 strike options: punch, kick, and signature. Tap the button for the weak version, tap the button with a D-pad for a strong version. It works similarly during grapples. Once you initiate a grapple, you have 9 attack options. With max momentum, you can either pull off your finisher by hitting the grapple button once more. It works just like Revenge, where you can try and do as many finishers as you can, but with a shorter time limit. Also, this game allows the reversal of finishers just like any other move by timing your button pressing correctly. The button varies depending on the version you're playing. Most positions you'd see in a match are included in this game. You can do aerial attacks by climbing crates. When an opponent is down by a spot you can jump off of, the game will even encourage this. There's even some areas like tires that allow for Irish Whip Rebound and corner moves like you would see in a ring. In both games, while getting up from the ground after an attack, you can hold a button down to do a recovery attack. The main feature of Backstage Assault is the hardcore aspect. You can use weapons in a variety of ways with quick attacks, swings, and overhead moves. Eventually, weapons will break though. You can find more by going into different areas or breaking open crates. There is a decent variety of weapons. You can even slam opponents into stuff and find more, or you can slam foes through tables or benches. There's a certain level of creativity in this style too. For example, you can pick up 2x4s and set them on fire to do extra damage. Or you can forget all that extra work and just throw your opponent into the flaming barrels and set them ablaze for an uncomfortable amount of time. You can even electrocute enemies if you want in certain rooms. The biggest issues I have with these games are the amount of damage these enemies can take. It makes sense to a degree, but for some reason both titles makes finishers feel like normal moves in both of these games. Kicking out of finishers is extremely common. It's honestly easier to make opponents tap or knock them out than pin them in these games. That said though, I usually try to be objective in the styles, but this one I just can't. Backstage Assault can be funny and isn't complicated by design, but its poor programming and stiff controls makes it difficult for most to enjoy. Clever ideas, I feel, but a lot of times moves just don't connect for some reason. Sometimes you won't climb climbable objects, and a lot of times you get stuck on nothing and stop moving. I wish I could avoid saying all these flaws, but the terrible collision detection is a massive part of the gameplay, so I have to bring it up for you guys to get the full scope of this game.
He just keeps coming back for more. Keeps coming back for more.
That was unbelievable. That was unbelievable.
Revenge allows players to experience the game in a variety of match types. There's singles, tag team, 2-on-1 handicap, and battle royal. You can mix and match the rules in these matches to allow for multiple win modifiers like pins, submissions, quick match, TKO, falls count anywhere, and add interference. For tag and handicap matches, you can edit the rules to allow for either tag format or tornado rules. In battle royals, you can choose from 4 to 40 entrants. There's a ring out rule, but just like in any other match, you can add in those previous win modifiers to add even more chaos to the match. Only 4 players are allowed on screen at one time though, so when someone is eliminated, the next entrant comes from the back. Backstage Assault handles things in a very weird way. There's normal matches, you can add submission or TKO as well to end the match, but then there are 2 extra match types, First Blood and Human Torch, which requires you to set an opponent on fire. But this match can only be played with 2 human players. There's not really any good reason for this as far as I'm concerned. Other than that though, there really isn't any other match types. No tag team, no triple threat, or 4-way matches, so let's move on. Both games feature the rosters of WCW during their respective time periods. Revenge features the 1998 roster that most associate as peak WCW. The faction wars were a big deal at the time, with the NWO Black and White and Wolfpack were riding high. The roster for Backstage Assault is considered the dark days of the company, but we do have a lot of interlap. Stars featured in both titles include Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, DDP, Booker T, Eric Bischoff, Sting, Lex Luger, Goldberg, Bret Hart, Billy Kidman, Scott Steiner, Stevie Ray, Disco Inferno, Conan, Canyon, Rey Mysterio Jr., Chavo Guerrero, La Parka, and Buff Bagwell. The biggest names exclusive to Revenge were The Giant, Scott Norton, Kurt Hennig, Macho Man Randy Savage, Raven, Roddy Piper, Chris Benoit, Rick Steiner, the British Bulldog, Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Ultimo Dragon, and a bunch of Japanese wrestlers with fictional likenesses. WCW Backstage Assault did have some new top tier additions though. Jeff Jarrett, Shane Douglas, Vampiro, Mike Awesome, Chris Candido, Ric Flair, David Flair, Sid Vicious, Lance Storm, Norman Smiley, 3 Count, Bam Bam Bigelow, and a few more notable mid-card names. It's also worth mentioning that both games have 4 unique attires for each characters included, even if some just have color palette swaps. Revenge has Championship Mode. You select one of 5 WCW championships and beat 8 challengers until you face the champ himself. The first time through each belt, you unlock the hidden wrestler associated with it. To unlock the TV title path, you need to complete the Cruiserweight belt. To unlock the World Heavyweight Championship, you need to clear the US Heavyweight Challenge first. There are no storylines, but you can defend a title after winning it against 9 more challengers and try to rack up a higher score. Backstage Assault has a similar formula. You fight through 7 men with the final being a champion. The belt depends on what difficulty you choose. Easy is the hardcore belt, medium is the US Heavyweight, and finally hard will have you on the WCW World Championship path. Before you start a match, you select which area to fight in. Sometimes you actually have some variety, but a lot of the time, the game makes you choose a specific area. Doing little challenges and exploring into other areas unlocks more wrestlers and areas for free play. The game will give you these hints before matches. After each match, just like Revenge, you will get a score that you will be able to rank in the high scoreboard if you did well enough. Once you beat all challengers and win the belt, you will get a small video package that is supposed to feature highlights of the belt, but there isn't really much action, at least not in the hardcore video for some reason. In Revenge, the only create option is editing available wrestler attires, nothing completely unique. You can change names, attires, colors, and masks for certain wrestlers. Some wrestlers like Rey Mysterio and Juventud Guerrero have extra color options for masks. In Backstage Assault, you can create 6 new wrestlers while being able to edit attires, moves, and attributes of the existing roster. It's pretty in-depth all things considered, and one of the best features of this game. Revenge doesn't really have extra modes, but it does feature a high score system. For every match type and championship path, you get scored in a variety of factors. The main goal is to try and have the most exciting match you can, so that way you show up on the high score board in the options menu. Just like Revenge, Backstage Assault also contains a high score board called Hall of Champions. This board only shows the top 10 overall hardcore challenge mode playthroughs, however, instead of individual matches or free play. Backstage Assault does, however, have its own unique survival mode. The Hardcore Gauntlet nets you against 7 foes in a row without healing. It's definitely a difficult challenge, as I was not able to clear this myself, but overall, it doesn't really seem to serve much of a purpose other than offering an extra challenge. Finally, you can input some cheats on the main menu like Tiny Mode and Large Women to add some hilarity to the game if you'd like. It seems like a lot of the least popular wrestling games at the time put a bunch of cheats in the game as bonuses instead of refining the gameplay. There are times, fellas, where I do comparisons to show off 2 fantastic games that are beloved in their respective communities. Then there are times where I compare games where one is objectively better than the other. I feel like most understand this, but you'd be surprised at how many people are confused when I compare the greatness of AKI games to games like Nitro, or in the case of this video, Backstage Assault. After playing through, I gotta admit, I don't think Assault is the absolute worst game I've played, but it's definitely top 3. And if you're a fan of WCW Backstage Assault, I hold nothing against you, but this video was made to show when a company developed a masterpiece in comparison to a stinky, smelly turd. But I know these games aren't my most popular comparisons, so I'm gonna finish off the year with some comparisons that will show off the evolution of these great titles. Either way, let me know what you guys thought of this video down below. Did you enjoy? Were there some things about Backstage Assault that surprised you? Like and subscribe if you did enjoy, and ring the notifications bell to be reminded of AKI comparisons, ROM hack reviews, personal rankings, and AKI evolution videos every single Sunday. I play AKI titles every Saturday and non-AKI wrestling games every Wednesday. If you want to see more playthroughs not involving wrestling, check out my Let's Play channel, Benoit, in the description. Above all else though, please remember to have a nice day.